Well, I think the real question today is if Speaker Dowd and the Republicans are so serious about getting things done this session, why and what have we been doing for the last 10 weeks? Since June of last year, we've known what the central issues are going to be. It's going to be bonding, it's going to be transportation, it's going to be taxes and a supplemental bill. Yet Republicans have done next to nothing to reach out to Governor Dayton, certainly nothing to reach out to the House Democrats to get any of those bills passed or to reach consensus. I think it's very telling that the bill that, or the offer that was made on Wednesday was the same, for the transportation bill by the House Republicans, was the same proposal that they made a year ago in all practical terms. They actually, took back some things, but in all notable respects, it's the exact same thing that they had on the table last May and June, and that is not compromised. That's not moving us forward in any direction. They haven't even introduced a bonding bill, and there's a week left in the session. I understand that the Speaker said that they'd release a bonding bill sometime next week. If you just do the counting, they release one on Monday. They have a hearing on it in the Capital Investment Committee on Tuesday. They have it in Ways and Means on Wednesday. You don't even get a bonding bill to the floor until Thursday or Friday, and we're done on Sunday. So I don't see how that really is the process that we should be following. It's certainly not leadership. And it's also notable that today the Republican leadership and the Republicans were not here trying to sell an alternative plan about how we get the job done. They were simply repeating their talking points and criticizing the governor's and the Senate's plan. Again, that's not going to get us where we need to get to solve the transportation bill, the bonding bill, and all the rest. Everybody agrees that it's going to take $600 million to do a transportation package that's comprehensive and solves statewide problems for roads and bridges. That has been the case for over a year now. And the governor and the Senate have put out plans that do that, that accomplish that. The Republican plan simply does not, and I think there's pretty clear acknowledgement around the Capitol that that's the case. Their plan would starve out the general fund and at the same time not solve the problem, and I don't know why you'd want to do both of those things at the same time. I would note just a couple of things. The biggest source of revenue in this state, the biggest source of tax revenue in this state for transportation is property taxes. Over $1 billion in property taxes is spent on transportation in this state. The longer we delay in actually solving this transportation problem in a comprehensive way, the more pressure we're going to put on raising more and more property taxes across the state. I would also note that the gas tax, while not the most popular thing in the world, is in the range of 45-55, right? It's not that far out of proportion. If that's the Republicans' argument, I don't understand why they're not supporting things like paid family leave, which has vast majorities of people supporting it. That they don't support things like campaign finance reform and the Disclose Act, which again has vast popular support for it. So, at the end of the day, the Speaker continues to say he's not going to draw any lines in the sand, and then he steps up and draws lines in the sand. We're not going to get this session done, bring it to a reasonable conclusion, and accomplish the work for the people of Minnesota unless we're willing to come up with solutions, and everybody is willing to compromise. Frankly, if the Republicans are stuck and don't want to do it, they can turn the gavels over to us, and we can get this done in a week, and we will be on our way in serving the best needs of Minnesotans.
Would you need Republican members to support you with that gavel?
Yeah, and I think that there would be some that would do that.
Individual conversations with Republicans who would support what Democrats want on transportation?
I know that there are Republicans that would support more than just the general fund for transportation.
How many?
I don't know how many.
Would you support a transportation bill that includes general fund money?
We have said that for a year.
How much? I mean, give us an idea of what would be workable.
I think we have to look at it in the context of everything that's out there. In terms of, we have St. Peter and Anoka that we need to fund in the range of $75 to $93 million. There's tax cuts that I know the Republicans want. There's other spending we think that's important for the state of Minnesota. But that I don't think we have never ruled out including a general fund as part of a compromise. And that's the point. We are willing to do something that we don't think is necessarily the absolute best, that it wouldn't be our first choice necessarily for how we solve it, but we're willing to go there because we think it's that important. I would also say, though, that we don't want to get in a position where the amount that we spend on an ongoing basis is going to starve out the general fund. And as you know, that's been the Speaker's, one of his goals with this transportation plan is that it squeezes out our ability to invest in schools and public safety and hospitals. And we don't want to get in that position either. But to get a deal done, we would be willing and open to supporting some general fund funding for transportation.
And would you be open to supporting a transportation deal that does not include a gas tax?
If it gets to $600 million, and this is the point. The Republicans keep saying that they're willing to come up with that. I think Dave Baker, in fact, today said we don't need a gas tax because there's alternative ways to get there. They have not put a single alternative way to get there on the table. It's really contingent on them to come forward and say, if we're going to do X amount in the general fund and we know that there's additional revenues that need to come in to get to $600 million, which is where I think they are, they should put that on the table so that we can have that discussion.
Let's get the other piece, major piece of this, and that's the bonding bill. Okay. What's a reasonable number? I mean, please don't tell us 1.4 billion or whatever, but in terms of a compromise, what's a reasonable number as far as you're concerned, and what portion of that could potentially be transportation?
Well, I think the reasonable number depends on how much of it is going to be transportation, first of all. And I don't want to put a particular number on the table. I mean, obviously, the Senate was at $1.8 billion, right? At 1.5 plus some cash. The House is at $600 million. The Republicans in the Senate put up close to $1 billion bonding bill that most of them voted for. So there's clearly room above, I think, above $1 billion. But the point is we actually have to solve some pretty serious things. I mean, the investment we need to make in our wastewater infrastructure, the investment we need to make in St. Peter and the St. Cloud prison, the investment that we need to make in housing infrastructure that I think everybody agrees upon, the investments we need to make to maintain our buildings at Minsky and the University of Minnesota, and make some investments in research and development and other facilities there. I mean, that starts to add up, and we think all of those are really, really important investments, and we think the people of Minnesota would agree.
Well, let's say that we're looking at around $1 billion, which is about halfway, roughly, in between the two, and the Republicans have talked about a $300 million number for transportation. I understand that's out of the general fund, but what is that? Is 700 million or so for bonding as far as your caucus is concerned, exclusive of transpo? I'm talking about. See, I'm trying to negotiate the deal right here.
So
but seriously, is that kind of in the range of having enough for the other things other than transpo?
And again, I think we'd have to go through and look at what all those other things were. And if you look at where the Republicans are, they put in over $3 billion of projects on their own. So this is this is something. The bigger point here is that we can't even start down that path until we see what the Republican position is. They should at the very least put that out for the people of Minnesota to look at. And then we can start to have that discussion about what's included, what's not included and needs to be included. That's, without the Republicans putting a plan out and actually exhibiting leadership on that front, we can't even start that conversation.
One more, and let me just shut up. Yeah. I'll shut up after that, I promise. Given that you are arguably perhaps the most powerful person in state government now, at least on the legislative side, just because of the interplay of the bonding bill and the others, okay, is it not incumbent upon you, if you're talking about leadership, to give some sort of an idea rather than say to the Republicans, hey, it's your responsibility? I mean, just given that the force of circumstance puts you in a leader and
they're the only ones that can bring up a bill. So they're the only ones that can actually bring a bonding bill to the floor. And they're the ones that chair the committee that can call the committee together to put a bill on the table. Alice, I know, has been, Representative Hausman has been talking to Representative Torkelson multiple times every day, encouraging him, giving him ideas about how to move forward on this. We just have not gotten that response back from the Republicans at all.
Are you convinced that House Republicans want a transportation bill?
Do you want to do that
I
one?
would like to speak to that because I think this is the problem when you hire the people who drafted your attack literature in the last campaign to run your legislative agenda. The legislative agenda is geared towards producing attack literature. We have a $900 million surplus, $500 million ongoing. We certainly could reach a deal on a bonding bill that's in the middle. We could do a responsible transportation bill. but then they lose the campaign issue. Republicans stopped a gas tax. In a way, I'm relieved that that's all they're going to run on. That all they can tell Minnesota is what they're against. They can't tell Minnesota what they're for. And I honestly don't think they want a transportation bill because their friends have already written the attack literature.
We know what it's like at the end of the session when you are working to reach the conclusion that you want to reach. We know what that's like. We've all done that together. And these last weeks can be very intense as you're moving your agenda through using the rules and the procedures, of course, that are in place. I don't feel that urgency at all in this House leadership, in the Minnesota House of Representatives. And I think that we've been hearing more from the Republican leadership about who's to blame for the failure of this session than we're hearing anything about what they're going to do to actually accomplish what they said they would do for the people of Minnesota.
Representative Marquardt, how does this rural urban kind of light rail bashing thing play out in your district? Is that red meat for the people out there?
Well, number one, we want good roads in rural Minnesota. That's number one. And we realize, also rural Minnesotans realize, we compromise. And so there's going to be things for rural Minnesota, there's going to be things for the metro area. And that's the way you do it. And you know, what gets me here on this whole debate on the transportation is one side, the House majority, absolutely throwing certain things off the table and just saying, we're done. When we know compromise is taking things you don't like. When both sides leave the table and they're disappointed with certain aspects, that's compromise. And that's what the people back home expect us to do. So just backing yourself into a corner and taking off major areas of revenue, which are going to be crucial to get to that $600 million, is really irresponsible and really not serious about trying to get the job done.
And Melissa, Representative Hartman, the 125 million or 135 million in the state match that is needed to leverage the 895 for the light rail, would that be part of the transportation bill? Would that come out of surplus funding, or would that be part of the bill that would be financed with, if you had a bill that would be financed with I don't know, possibly gas tax, or would it be quarter-cent sales tax, or how would that be done?
Well, you can't use gas tax money to bond for transit. And so I think that the precise answer on Southwest Light Rail is unclear. I think what's clear is that we have to get a solution. And I think the bonding bill and the transportation bill work together. They have to together solve the problems that we have in transportation, and neither bill can do it alone. They really go after different things. We saw with North Star Commuter Rail in 2003 and 2004, we had House Republicans who refused to pass it because they were against choo-choo trains. And then the federal government said, okay, we're changing the standards. And so North Star doesn't go to St. Cloud because House Republicans failed to do it in 2003 and 2004. So now we're playing federal government funding roulette again with Southwest Light Rail. How much shorter? How much less money? Who gets funded first? How long do we have to wait to get it funded? These are actually serious questions. Although some Republicans seem to think what we're doing is a high school debating club here, and this is all just a game and a show, there are consequences to failing to make decisions and consequences to failing to take actions in a timely manner. And we have a governor who is, I think clearly of goodwill, has shown over and over again a willingness to compromise and find the middle. What a wasted opportunity for Republicans to put red lines out there. At the end of the Paris negotiations, one of the negotiators said, everybody came in with red lines. It's time to put red lines aside and start looking for green lines. And I think that Kurt Dowd is certainly capable of doing that, but he has to want to do that. And it would be really frustrating for us to see another big chunk taken out of Minnesota's transit system because of House Republicans refusing to act.
We'll give it to Bill Werman. At least you're willing to negotiate, unlike other House Republicans.
I don't have the power, though.
Thank you.